The rock was heavy in my hand, ice bit into my bare feet. My nightgown flapped against my legs like a broken wing, and the wind cut through the thin fabric like it wanted to punish me for still being alive. I stood on my own front lawn in the middle of a Vermont winter, staring at the window I was about to smash. 10 below zero. Maybe colder. The cold didn't feel like cold anymore, it felt like teeth. My name is Retta Caldwell. I'm 71 years old, and 3 minutes ago, my son's wife shoved me out of my own house and locked the door behind me. I raised the rock higher. The living room window glowed warm and golden. I could see them inside. Tansy was on her phone, laughing. My son Hollis sat on the couch with his head in his hands like he was praying, or hiding. The rock trembled in my grip. My fingers were going numb. Then headlights cut through the falling snow. A car pulled up to the curb. Not just any car, the kind of car that costs more than most people's houses. Black, sleek, quiet even in the storm. The engine purred like a living thing. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out, maybe 60, silver hair, expensive coat, the kind of man who looked like he owned buildings and signed checks that changed lives. He looked at me, at my nightgown, at my bare feet in the snow, at the rock in my hand. "Retta Caldwell," he said. I couldn't answer. My teeth were chattering too hard. "Hi, viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is." The man moved fast. He took off his coat and wrapped it around my shoulders. The warmth hit me so hard I gasped. It smelled like expensive cologne and car leather and safety. "My name is Quillen Nash," he said. His voice was calm, steady, like he found half-frozen old women on lawns every Tuesday. "I knew your husband." The words didn't make sense. Vernon was dead. Had been dead for 3 days. The funeral was yesterday. I was still wearing the grief like a second skin. "Vernon called me 2 days ago," Quillen said. "He was guiding me toward the car now. My feet weren't working right. He practically carried me. He said if anything happened to you, I should come. He said you might need help." 2 days ago? I whispered. "But he was already—" "I know." Quillen opened the passenger door. Heat poured out. "He called me from the hospital, the day before he died. He said, if my wife ends up in trouble, it'll be because of my son's wife. And when that happens, Quillen, I need you to be there." I looked back at the house. Tansy was at the window now. Her face was pressed against the glass. Her eyes were wide. Her mouth was open. She'd seen the car, seen Quillen, and she was scared. Good. Quillen helped me into the passenger seat. The heat wrapped around me like arms, like Vernon's arms. I started shaking, not from cold, from something else. Quillen got in the driver's seat. He turned up the heat even higher, pulled a blanket from the back seat and tucked it around my legs. "We're going somewhere safe," he said. "And then we're going to talk about what your husband left you." "He left me the house," I said. My voice sounded far away. "And some money. He told me before he died. Said Hollis would get his share after I was taken care of." Quillen's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Retta, your husband didn't leave you some money. He left you a fortune. And he didn't just leave instructions. He left you a weapon." The car pulled away from the curb. I watched my house disappear in the rearview mirror, watched Tansy's face fade into the snow and darkness. Vernon didn't just prepare for this, I realized. He predicted every move they'd make. 3 days earlier, I stood in the cold again, but this time I wore a black dress and held a tissue that was useless against the kind of crying that splits you open from the inside. Vernon's casket sat above the grave like a terrible promise. In a few minutes, they'd lower it into the frozen ground and my husband of 48 years would be gone forever. The preacher was talking, saying nice things, true things. Vernon was a good man, a kind man, Benanes. A man who loved his family and his town and his wife with a steady, quiet sort of love that never asked for applause. I wasn't listening. I was remembering. I was remembering the morning 49 years ago when Vernon saw me at the Millbrook Library and asked if I could help him find a book about fixing old furniture. He didn't need the book. He told me later he just needed an excuse to talk to me. I was remembering our wedding day, small, simple, just family and a few friends. Vernon wore his father's suit. I wore my mother's dress. We promised forever and we meant it. I was remembering the day Hollis was born, how Vernon cried when he held him, how he whispered, "I'm going to be the best father I can be. I promise." I was remembering 1,000 quiet mornings, coffee at the kitchen table, Vernon reading the paper, me doing crosswords, not talking much because we didn't need to. Mom? Hollis touched my elbow. He looked terrible, eyes red, face pale, suit wrinkled like he'd slept in it. Maybe he had. Tansy stood next to him. She wore black, but she'd done her makeup. Full face, Instagram ready. She kept checking her phone. "They're going to lower the casket now," Hollis said. "Do you want to say anything?" I shook my head. What was there to say? Vernon knew I loved him. Knew it in his bones. Words at a grave wouldn't change that. They lowered him down. The mechanism creaked. Someone sobbed. Not me. I was all cried out. Tansy's phone buzzed. She checked it, typed something back, smiled a little. At my husband's funeral, she smiled. I should have known then, should have seen it coming, but grief makes you stupid. Makes you miss things that should be obvious. We went back to the house after. People brought food, casseroles and pasta salads and cakes that nobody would eat. They hugged me and said Vernon was in a better place and if I needed anything, just call. They meant it, but they wouldn't be the ones I'd need. By evening, everyone had left except Hollis and Tansy. They stayed to help clean up, they said. But Tansy kept looking around the house, studying it like she was taking inventory. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," Hollis said. He was putting plastic wrap on a tray of cookies. "Maybe we should stay over, on the couch or something." "I'll be fine," I said. "No, really, we don't mind." He looked at Tansy. "Do we?" Tansy smiled. "Of course not. Family takes care of family." But Vernon's voice was in my head. A memory from 3 years ago when he got sick, when the doctor said pancreatic cancer and we both knew what that meant. We were lying in bed, dark outside, snow falling, just like now. "I need to tell you something," Vernon said. "About money." I'd squeezed his hand. "We have enough. The house is paid off. We'll be fine." "No, I mean real money. My grandfather's money." I'd turned to look at him. "Your grandfather died before we got married. He left me timber rights, investments, properties. Things I never told anyone about because I didn't want it to change how people saw us, how they saw Hollis." "How much?" Vernon told me. The number was so big it didn't sound real. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" I whispered. "Because money doesn't make you happy, Retta. It just shows you who people really are." And I wanted Hollis to grow up normal. Wanted him to work for things, value things. Does he know? No. And I need you to promise me something. When I'm gone, tell him about the inheritance. But not right away. Wait until after the funeral. Give him time to grieve first. He deserves that much. I'd promised. And now, watching Tansy eye my china cabinet like a shark, I understood why Vernon had been so specific about timing. He knew. Somehow he knew what was coming. And he made me promise one thing about Hollis. A promise that would save my life. The next morning, I woke up in Vernon's chair. I'd fallen asleep there because the bed felt too big and too empty and too full of ghosts. My back ached, my head hurt, the house was cold. I'd let the heat drop overnight because what was the point of being warm when you were alone? I made coffee, burned my toast, stared out the window at the snow. The phone rang. "Mom, it's Hollis. How are you doing?" "I'm okay," I lied. "Tansy and I want to come by later. Talk about some things. Is that okay?" Something in his voice made my stomach tight. "What things?" "Just practical stuff, making sure you're set up okay." They came at 2. Tansy carried a casserole dish. Hollis carried a folder. "We brought lunch," Tansy said. She smiled big, too big. "You need to eat. Keep your strength up." We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Vernon and I had eaten breakfast every morning for 40 years, where he'd done homework with Hollis, where we'd played cards on Friday nights. Tansy served the casserole, some kind of chicken thing. It probably tasted fine, but it felt like sawdust in my mouth. "So," Tansy said. She folded her hands on the table. "We've been thinking about your situation." "My situation?" "Living here alone." in this big house. It's not practical, Retta. The heating bills alone must be crazy. And the maintenance, the yard work. It's too much for one person. I've lived here for 40 years. Exactly. Tansy leaned forward. That's a long time. Maybe it's time for something new, something easier. There are these lovely senior communities. I'm not leaving my home. Tansy's smile flickered. Well, we can talk about it later. You're still processing. We understand. But her eyes said different. Her eyes said she'd already made the decision, and I just didn't know it yet. They left an hour later. Tansy hugged me at the door. We'll check on you tomorrow, she said. Family takes care of family. I watched them drive away, watched their car disappear down the street. Vernon's voice was in my head again, from that same conversation 3 years ago. If something happens to me, he'd said, if Hollis or Tansy try to push you around, you call Quillen Nash. He's my lawyer, the real one, not the guy who did our regular stuff. Quillen handles the serious money, the trusts, the properties, everything that matters. Why would they push me around? Vernon had looked at me, really looked at me. Because Tansy's got a hole in her heart shaped like dollar bills, sweetheart. And when she finds out how much money there is, that hole's going to swallow everything in reach. The woman who walked out of my house that afternoon wasn't the daughter-in-law I knew. She was something else entirely. 2 days later, they came back. I was in the living room when I heard the knock, answered it without thinking. Hollis and Tansy stood on the porch, but this time Tansy had papers in her hand. We need to talk, she said. She didn't wait for an invitation, just walked right in. Hollis followed, looking at the floor. Tansy spread the papers on the coffee table. We talked to a lawyer about the house. Since Vernon's gone, ownership should transfer to Hollis. He's next of kin. It's just a formality, really, but we need you to sign here and here. My hands started shaking. The house is in my name. Vernon made sure of that. Tansy laughed, sharp, like breaking glass. That's not how it works, Retta. Community property. Hollis has a right to his inheritance. The word hung in the air. Inheritance. Vernon's voice. Tell him after the funeral. Give him time to grieve first. But grief time was over, apparently, and Tansy was already circling like a vulture. There's more to the inheritance than the house, I said quietly. Your father set things up. There's money, quite a bit of it. Hollis's head snapped up. What? I told them. Not everything, but enough. About Vernon's grandfather, the timber rights, the investments that had been growing for decades, the properties held in trusts with names that meant nothing to anyone but lawyers. I watched my son's face change, confusion to shock to something that looked like hunger. Tansy stood up so fast her chair fell over. How much? Enough, I said. Vernon wanted you to have your share, Hollis, but he wanted to make sure I was taken care of first. That's how he set it up. That's ridiculous. Tansy's voice climbed. We need that money now. We have debts, plans. You can't just sit on it. It's not about sitting on it. It's about respecting Vernon's wishes. Vernon's dead! The scream echoed in the small living room, made the windows rattle. His wishes don't matter anymore. Hollis touched her arm. Maybe we should... Don't. She yanked away from him, turned back to me. You've been lying to us for years, pretending to be poor while you had millions hidden away. You're selfish, you're manipulative, and you're not keeping what belongs to my husband. I stood up. My legs felt like water, but I stood. Get out of my house. Tansy grabbed the papers off the table, crumpled them in her fist. We'll see what a real lawyer says. Come on, Hollis. She stormed out. Hollis hesitated at the door, looked back at me. Dad really left us money? He asked. He left you a future, I said. After he made sure I had one. That was the deal. How much, Mom? And there it was. The same hunger I'd seen in Tansy. The same empty hole. Enough, I said again. More than enough. Hollis left without saying goodbye. I sat in the empty house and listened to the silence. It sounded like a countdown clock ticking down to something terrible. That night, I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't do anything but sit and think about the look on Hollis's face. The greed, the way his love had vanished the second he heard the word millions. Around 11, I put on my nightgown. The blue one Vernon always said made my eyes look pretty. I tried to lie down, but the bed was too big, and the house was too quiet, and my heart was too loud. Around midnight, I heard it. A key in the front door. I sat up. Hollis? The door opened. Footsteps in the hallway. 2 sets. I got out of bed, walked to the top of the stairs, looked down. Tansy stood in my hallway. Hollis was behind her, and Tansy had a suitcase in her hand. "What are you doing?" I asked. Tansy looked up at me. Her face was cold, hard, like something carved from ice. "We talked to a real lawyer," she said. "A good one. He says we can contest Vernon's will. Says there's grounds for undue influence. Says you manipulated a dying man." My heart hammered. That's not true. Doesn't matter what's true. Tansy started up the stairs. Each step slow, deliberate. What matters is what we can prove. What we can make a judge believe. This is going to get ugly, Retta. Real ugly. Legal fees, depositions. Your name dragged through every newspaper in Vermont. I won't let you. Or... She reached the top of the stairs, stood so close I could smell her perfume. "You can make this easy. Sign over the house, give Hollis his inheritance now, all of it, and we'll let you live in one of our rental properties. Something small, something appropriate for a woman your age." I looked past her to Hollis. My son. The boy I'd rocked to sleep when he had nightmares. The man I'd loved, even when he disappointed me. "Hollis, please, your father wanted—" "My father's dead, Mom." His voice cracked, broke on the words. "And we need this. You don't understand the kind of debt we're in, the kind of pressure. This money could change everything for us." "What about what it means to me?" Tansy smiled. "You've had your life, Retta. You had Vernon. You had your time, now it's our turn." I stepped back. "No." The smile dropped off her face like a mask hitting the floor. "What did you say?" I said no. This is my home. Vernon left it to me, left everything to me with instructions for Hollis after I'm gone. I'm following his wishes. If you want to fight that in court, fight it. But I'm not signing anything. Tansy's hand shot out, grabbed my arm. Her fingers dug into my skin, hard enough to bruise, hard enough to hurt. "You stubborn, selfish old woman," she hissed. "You're going to regret this. Let go of me. You're leaving, tonight, right now. You want to play hardball? Fine. But you're not doing it from my house." "This isn't your house!" Tansy yanked me toward the stairs. I tried to pull away, but she was younger, stronger, meaner. We struggled at the landing. My hip hit the banister. Pain shot through my side like lightning. "Hollis!" I screamed. "Help me!" He stood there, frozen, watching his wife drag his mother toward the stairs. He didn't move. Tansy pulled harder. I stumbled, caught the railing, held on, but she twisted my wrist and my grip gave out. We went down the stairs together. She was pulling me. I was falling. Each step hit my knees, my shins, my elbows. The pain was sharp and bright and everywhere. We reached the bottom. Tansy dragged me across the floor. My nightgown caught under my feet. I tried to stand, but she shoved me down. The front door was right there. She yanked it open. Cold air rushed in. Not just cold, Arctic, the kind of cold that kills. "Now that your husband's dead, pack your bags and get out," Tansy said. Her voice was ice. Her eyes were emptier. "Hope you freeze." She shoved me. I fell through the doorway, hit the front steps. My knees cracked against the concrete. My hands scraped, trying to catch myself. The door slammed behind me. I heard the lock click. I got to my feet. The cold bit into me immediately. 10 below, the weather report had said. Maybe colder with the wind. My nightgown was thin, meant for heated bedrooms, not January nights in Vermont. I pounded on the door. Let me in, Hollis, please." No answer. I could see them through the window. Tansy had her phone out, texting someone, smiling. Hollis sat on the couch with his head in his hands. I pounded harder. Hollis, it's freezing. I'll die out here. Nothing. My hands were already going numb. My feet burned against the frozen concrete. The wind cut through my nightgown like I was naked. I stumbled off the porch. Maybe I could break a window, get back inside somehow. There had to be a way. I found a rock in the garden, frozen into the dirt. I pulled it free. My fingers screamed. I raised the rock, aimed at the living room window, and that's when the headlights cut through the snow. Someone was coming. But was it help or the final nail in my coffin? The car stopped right in front of me. The engine purred, expensive, quiet. The door opened. Quillen Nash stepped out. He looked at me, at the rock in my hand, at my bare feet in the snow, at the nightgown plastered to my shaking body. He didn't ask questions, didn't hesitate. He took off his coat, wrapped it around my shoulders. The warmth hit me so hard I gasped. My knees buckled. Quillen caught me, held me up like I weighed nothing. "I knew your husband," he said. His voice was steady, calm. "Vernon called me 2 days ago, said if anything happened to you, I should check on you, said you might need help." I couldn't speak. My teeth were chattering too hard, my whole body was shaking. Quillen guided me to the car, opened the passenger door. Heat poured out, beautiful, perfect heat. He helped me inside, turned the heat up full blast, pulled a blanket from the back and wrapped it around my legs. My skin burned as feeling came back. It hurt worse than the cold. I looked back at the house. Tansy was at the window. Her face was pressed against the glass. Her mouth was open. Her eyes were wide. She'd seen the car, seen Quillen, seen the expensive coat and the calm authority and the way he treated me like I mattered. And she was scared. Quillen got in the driver's seat, put the car in gear. "Let's get you somewhere safe," he said. "Then we'll talk about what happens next." The car pulled away from the curb. I watched my house disappear in the rearview mirror, watched the only home I'd ever known fade into snow and darkness. "Vernon didn't just leave you money, Retta," Quillen said quietly. "He left you a war chest, and tomorrow we go to battle." Quillen drove for 20 minutes. I didn't ask where we were going, didn't care. The heat was on, I was safe. That was enough. We pulled up to the Millbrook Inn, the nicest hotel in town, the kind of place that hosted weddings and anniversary parties and graduation dinners. Quillen parked in front, came around and opened my door, helped me out like I was somebody important. So the front desk clerk's eyes went wide when she saw me. Nightgown, bare feet, wrapped in a man's expensive coat. "Ms. Caldwell's suite is ready," Quillen said. He handed her a credit card. "Send up hot tea, soup, whatever she needs." "Of course, Mr. Nash." Suite. Not room, suite. Quillen led me to the elevator. We rode up in silence. He wasn't looking at me like I was crazy, wasn't asking questions, just being steady and calm and present. We got off on the 3rd floor. He unlocked a door at the end of the hall. The suite was beautiful, fireplace, sitting area, bedroom visible through an open door, warm, safe. "Sit," Quillen said. He guided me to the couch near the fireplace. "I'll get this going." He knelt and started the fire. Within minutes, flames were dancing. Heat rolled out in waves. A knock at the door, Quillen answered. A server wheeled in a cart, tea, soup, bread. Quillen tipped him and closed the door. He poured tea, added honey, handed me the cup. I wrapped my hands around it. The warmth seeped into my frozen fingers. "Drink," he said. I drank. It burned going down, burned in the best way. Quillen sat across from me. "Vernon called me on a Tuesday," he said. 2 days before he died. He was weak, could barely talk, but he was very clear about what he wanted. "What did he say?" "He said, if my wife ends up in trouble, it'll be because of Tansy. She's going to make a move. And when she does, I need you to be there." My hands shook. Tea sloshed over the rim of the cup. "He told me about your son," Quillen continued. "Said Hollis was a good kid, but weak. Said Tansy had been working on him for years, turning him against you, against Vernon, making him think you were keeping him from something he deserved." "We never kept anything from him," I whispered. "I know," Vernon explained. "He wanted Hollis to grow up normal, work for things, appreciate things. But Tansy didn't see it that way. She saw 2 old people living in a rundown house and couldn't understand why they wouldn't bankroll her dreams." I set the tea down. How much did Vernon tell you? Everything. Quillen leaned forward. I've been Vernon's lawyer for 15 years. I set up the trusts, managed the investments, bought and sold the properties. I know exactly how much you're worth, Retta. Down to the penny. How much? $12.3 million. dollars. The number hung in the air. Huge. Impossible. Vernon was very specific about how things were structured, Quillen said. Everything goes to you, then. The house, the investments, the properties, all of it. Hollis gets his inheritance after you pass, and only if certain conditions are met. What conditions? That he doesn't harm you, doesn't abandon you, doesn't contest the will or try to force you out of your home. Quillen's eyes were hard, huh? If he violates any of those conditions, his inheritance goes to charity, every penny. I started crying, couldn't help it. Big, ugly sobs that shook my whole body. Vernon had known, had seen this coming, had protected me even from the grave. Quillen handed me tissues, waited while I cried myself out. There's something else, he said when I was quiet. Vernon left you a video message. He recorded it 3 weeks before he died. Said you should watch it if Tansy made her move. He pulled out a tablet, tapped the screen a few times. Turned it toward me. Vernon's face filled the screen. He looked terrible. Thin, gray, dying. But his eyes were bright, alert, and full of love. Hey, sweetheart, he said. His voice was scratchy, weak. If you're watching this, then I was right about Tansy, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I touched the screen, traced his face with my finger. I want you to listen to me, Vernon continued. You did nothing wrong. You loved our son. You were a good mother. But sometimes good mothers raise weak sons, and weak sons marry strong women who use that weakness against them. He coughed, took a breath. Quillen has everything you need. The trusts are ironclad. The house is yours. The money is yours. Tansy can't touch any of it. Neither can Hollis. Not unless you choose to give it to them. Another breath. Longer this time. And sweetheart, I want you to do something for me. I want you to fight back. My breath caught. Don't just survive this, Vernon said. His eyes looked right into mine, right through the camera and time and death itself. Thrive. Live the life we always talked about. Travel, do things, be happy. And if Hollis comes crawling back when he realizes what he lost, you make him earn it. You make him prove he's the man I raised him to be. He smiled, weak, tired, but real. I love you, Retta Caldwell. I loved you from the first day I saw you. And I'll love you in whatever comes after this. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Don't you forget that. The screen went black. I sat there, tears streaming down my face, heartbreaking and healing at the same time. Quillen gave me a minute. Then he said, Vernon didn't just leave you money, Retta. He left you power. And tomorrow, we're going to use it. Vernon's face filled the screen one more time. Quillen had rewound it to the last part. And sweetheart, if Hollis chose her over you, then he chose to lose everything. Pull the trigger. 1 week later, I stood on my front porch again. But this time, I wasn't wearing a nightgown. I wore slacks and a sweater and the good coat Vernon bought me for our last anniversary. My hair was done. My head was high. Quillen stood next to me. On my other side was Sheriff Darnell Kopp. He'd known Vernon for 30 years, played poker with him on Thursday nights, and he was holding papers. Hollis's truck was in the driveway. He and Tansy were inside, in my house, like they owned it. They didn't. Sheriff Kopp knocked on the door, loud, official. It opened. Hollis stood there. He looked terrible. Hadn't shaved, eyes bloodshot, shirt wrinkled. Mom, he said, Mr. Caldwell, Sheriff Kopp said, I have a legal eviction notice for you and your wife. You have illegally changed the locks on property that doesn't belong to you. You're trespassing. You have 1 hour to gather your personal belongings and vacate the premises. Hollis's face went white. What? No, this is my house, my inheritance. Actually, it's not. Quillen held up papers. This house is in Retta Caldwell's name, solely. And according to the will, any attempt to force her from this property results in automatic forfeiture of your inheritance. All of it. You can't do that. Your father did it. Quillen's voice was ice. 15 years ago, and it's ironclad. Tansy appeared behind Hollis. This is ridiculous. We talked to a lawyer. You talked to Barry Henson, Quillen interrupted. He does small claims and traffic tickets. I do estate law for families worth 8 figures. And I'm telling you that if you're not out of this house in 1 hour, you'll be arrested for trespassing. And Hollis will lose $12 million. Tansy's face went from red to white to gray. 12 million? That was his inheritance, Quillen said, before he violated the terms by attempting to force his mother from her home. Now it's 0. Hollis didn't force me out, Tansy said quickly. I did. He wasn't even part of it. He stood there and watched, I said quietly, my first words since arriving. I screamed for help, and he stood there and watched his wife drag me down the stairs and throw me into the snow. That's not innocent. That's complicit. Hollis's eyes filled with tears. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to do. She said we'd lose everything if we didn't. You did lose everything, I said. You lost me. Sheriff Kopp stepped forward. 59 minutes, folks. Clock's ticking. They packed in 45 minutes, suitcases and boxes thrown together in a panic. Tansy screamed the whole time. At Hollis, at me, at Quillen, at the universe. This is elder abuse, she shouted. Your son. You're stealing from your own son. No, I said. You tried to steal from me. There's a difference. They loaded the truck. Hollis came back to the door one last time. Mom, said. Please, let me explain. Your father gave you every chance to be a good man, I said. You chose her instead. You chose greed instead of love. And now you get to live with that choice. I was scared. We have so much debt. You thought money mattered more than your mother freezing to death on her own lawn. My voice didn't shake, didn't waver. You were wrong. Hollis got in the truck. Tansy was already in the passenger seat on her phone, probably calling lawyers who couldn't help her. They drove away. I watched until the truck disappeared. Then I walked into my house. My home. The place Vernon and I built a life together. Quillen followed me in. You okay? No, I said. But I will be. 6 months later, I stood at Vernon's grave. The snow was melted now. Spring had come. Green grass, flowers, birds singing. I brought tulips. Vernon's favorite. Put them in the vase at his headstone. Hey, baby, I said. I have news. The wind blew, warm, gentle. I started a foundation, in your name, the Vernon Caldwell Foundation for Elder Protection. We help older people who are facing financial abuse from their families. Legal help, safe housing, whatever they need. A robin landed on the headstone, cocked its head at me. We helped 12 people so far, got them out of bad situations, protected their assets, made sure they were safe. The robin flew away. Hollis called last week, I said. He and Tansy are divorced. She left him when she realized there was no money coming. He's living in an apartment, working 2 jobs. Says he wants to talk. Wants to apologize, really apologize. I knelt down, touched the cold marble. I told him I'd think about it. Maybe someday, but not today. Today, I'm still too angry, still too hurt. The sun came out from behind a cloud, warmed my face. You taught me that money doesn't solve problems, Vernon. It reveals character, and baby, you revealed everything. Tansy's greed, Hollis's weakness, and my own strength that I didn't even know I had. I stood up, brushed dirt off my knees. I miss you every day, but I'm not just surviving without you. I'm living, really living, just like you wanted. The wind blew again, and I swear I heard Vernon's voice, whisper soft, warm as summer. That's my girl. If you've ever been thrown away by the people you sacrificed everything for, if you've ever been told you don't matter, that your time is up, that you should just disappear quietly, I need you to hear this. You still have power, you still have worth, and your story isn't over. To anyone fighting their own battle right now, anyone who's been counted out, pushed aside, or left in the cold, literally or otherwise, your comeback is already being written. Stay quiet, stay sharp, and let your actions speak louder than their cruelty ever could. What lesson hit you hardest from this story? And if you were in my shoes, if your own child stood there and watched while someone threw you into the snow, what would you have done? Don't stop here. Click the next video on your screen right now and watch another powerful story from our channel. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss these stories, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one.